What's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, Leo King, and this is my show, Uncut Astrology, where I take off the mask and go deep behind the veil and look at this week's astrological forecast for the week of April 6th through the 12th of 2016. And remember, this is a new moon week, so you do not want to miss my new moon ceremony that I do every new moon and full moon on spiritualdancemusic.com or here on my YouTube channel, or just find it on my Facebook. Follow the Leo King. And I want to say a couple announcements before I go into the astrology. Number one, this is the week of my anniversary of doing this daily video on the internet. Now it's all moved to my app, of course, but if you look at my YouTube, I used to do a daily video on YouTube every day. Started it on April 10th of 2012, and I haven't stopped. I only have missed one day in the last 4 years. And so this is kind of a really interesting week for me, stepping into this energy, because this is a 4-year mark for me doing this every day. And if you didn't know, you can watch me every day do very awesome horoscopes and doing your sun sign horoscopes all at my app, the leokingapp.com, where you can find it at the iPhone or iTunes store or at the Google Play store. And I have to say, the last thing is I am doing 15-minute readings. This is the last week. I overbooked myself, so if you want to book a slot now, and then I do the reading within a couple weeks to wherever I'm at in the backup, but I'm getting them done as fast as possible. But if you want the cheapest reading from me possible, 15-minute readings where I do a pre-recorded reading just for you, you can get it now for the last week at my website, inclusiveastrology.com. Now that we got all of the Leo King business aside, let's get into the astrology. We're at a new moon week, but before this new moon happens on Thursday, the 7th, we have the sun squaring Pluto. And this is a very intense time to come to, where it's about shedding. This is a week of shedding. This is a week about finding some sort of plan. The sun's trining Saturn while the sun is squaring Pluto. And this is a 30-degree angle of Saturn and Pluto right now. They're in each other's blind spots. As Pluto's in Capricorn, really determined to change the rules in our life, we're kind of having to change the rules based off new perceptions. And I think that that can be making us new people. This new moon, of course, is all about the re-identification, but it's more about looking at your belief structure and the way that you tell yourself you have to live by, that is changing in this identity. This is you really realizing that you don't have to live this way anymore this week. Because whenever you deal with Sun square Pluto, here's the sun bringing life to this new identity in Aries and these new identifications, this new willpower, this new strength, and then of course here's Pluto in Capricorn, this way you think that you have to be. And I think that with all this energy and with Saturn involved in Sagittarius, we're really having to look at our beliefs, and I think we're redefining ourselves based upon changing the rules in our life based off this new belief structure. What's also interesting about this transit is Mercury has entered into Taurus, where it will be until June. So literally Mercury's going to be in Taurus for the next couple months. And if you don't know, Mercury's the fastest planet and usually can go faster than any other planet in the sky. It can literally go through a whole sign in like 21 days when it's at its peak, sometimes 20 days. But here it is, literally going to be stuck in a sign for over 2 months, and it doesn't like that. Remember, Mercury wants to keep going. Mercury is the ADHD person who's wiggling around in its seat on the airplane and going up and down the aisles, and it's stuck on a long-term plane ride for almost 2.5 months, but for over 2 months. And so Mercury is looking in Taurus. Taurus is our self-worth. It's where we create things. And Taurus is all about making sure that you get the best out of it. So in many aspects, now that Mercury has entered this space, it's like we really have to start to process our life. What's the right thing for us as far as quality? And when you mix that with this new identification, with the rules in our life, with our belief structure, and Venus that has just moved into Aries now, it's really all about formulating a new self. And this is all Mars retrograde, Pluto retrograde, which is coming on the 17th and 18th of April. So there's this last big moment here this week by the universe. And then I'll be honest, next week, there's some things that happen, but nothing really kind of happens. And we kind of get into kind of an eerie space next week as we come into the stationary aspects of Mars and Pluto. And so this is a time where this is the last wind or fire, because there's a lot of fire right now, from the universe to kind of say, hey, this is it. Hey, is this what you're going to be doing? Is this where you're going? Is this who you are? Is this the beliefs? What can you change? I think Sun square Pluto is forcing you to see, like, what can you change? The other aspect this week that's happening is the Sun is going to conjunct Uranus, which is all about really extreme change, just in trying new things, doing things differently. So when you mix both these elements of like death and rebirth and trying things in a new way, or trying things in angles that you've never done before, it really kind of brings a really exciting element, but it also brings kind of a really, overwhelming kind of element. Sometimes it can feel like it's just like so overwhelming that it's like, I gotta do this now. I gotta like shift my perception. I gotta shift my life. I gotta do things differently. And the self-compassion role is reaching a new level. Neptune now comes to 11 degrees. Neptune has never been to 11 degrees in any of our lives. Last time was in the 1850s, like I think it was 1853, 1854, right in there. So we're coming into a whole new space on self-compassion and confusion, and you gotta remember, this is also Jupiter and Saturn, which has still been squaring. This is now Jupiter getting as close as it's gonna really get to Neptune almost. They're about to start to oppose. So, it's still a confusing time, and I think Mercury is a blessing in Taurus, because when you're blind through this corner in your life, you kind of really have to go with the taste, the smell. You have to go with what tastes right. That tastes right. What feels right? What's the best for you? And that might not be easy for some people, because this weekend there's a mutable cross. The moon's going to come into Gemini, and it's going to come into all this aspects with Neptune and Jupiter and Mars and Saturn. And I think this weekend, after the new moon sets, there's a test. There's a test about, your logical understanding of this new identity that you're coming into. And, you might be questioning it. You might be questioning the new road that you have to take. You might be questioning the new way that you have to go. And I think that you have to realize that this is a time where we're getting ready for a massive tidal wave of receiving. Mars has reached its end. It's going to have to retreat now. And I think in all of our lives, there's a lot of that energy kind of running out. And what you're going to be stuck in for the next 3 months is, who do you want to be? Because literally, this Mars retrograde is going to be a very deep cut into the last couple years of your life, and trying to cut away the cords of the things that you were scared of, the truths that came out in the last couple years, the revealing of who you really are and who you want to change. And this new identity is here. But there are deeper things that have to get cut away, or the trash of who you were, the skin of who you were, still has to be taken out of the room, and it's still smelling up the room. And so even though this is a great time for us to kind of really start to see this new part of ourselves becoming born and really becoming identified, which I think is wonderful and great, I think that you need to realize that it's important to really make a decision here about who that person is, because the next 3 months will be about cutting away the trash so that person can move forward. And that's where we're at. There's this really interesting part of Venus and Mars trining by the end of this week, and then Mercury and Neptune sextiling. So by the end of this week, when we come into Tuesday next week on the 12th, this really will be a moment, once the Sun's past Uranus, it's come through all this crazy stuff, this is going to be this great moment where we're all like, wow, I know what I am, I'm going to go for. And that's really what coming into next week is like, you've gone through the questions, you've gone through the exciting epiphanies, you've gone through the unpredictabilities, you've gone through the facing of fears, you've gone through the facing of really intensity that's been revealed of who you should be, and you've gone through all the, sorrow and the hurt and the pain that we've gone through for the last month of all this Chiron and Pisces energy. And so this week is really a culmination point as the universe's last big hurrah before I don't want to say the party ends, but as an honest to God channeling from purity about astrology, I hate to be very honest with you, the party does end after this coming up week. When that Mars and Pluto retrograde comes on the 18th and 19th, you have to realize 5 planets retrograde, we're in a receiving mode, we're in a reflective mode, and Mars represents moving forward in life, and it goes backwards. And it's going backwards in Sagittarius, and we're going to talk more about that as we come into next week, because next week's report, we're going to start covering that. But who do you want to be now? Who are you removing? And realizing that you just can't dump this dead body of who you were. You know, I can't just throw it in, I just can't throw that dead body, that dead soul that we don't want to be anymore just here in the harbor. Like, and just like, hopefully the crocodiles get it, or hopefully the boats run over it or something. Like, that's not going to happen. That's not what this period really is truly about. It's realizing that we have to bury it and do a memorial service and do it legally and do it emotionally. We have to honor that person that we were. We have to honor that self. We have to, and that's what this reflective period coming is honoring who we once were in order to get a message back from it to move forward in the new identity. But this is a weird period where that new identity's out with this old dead body, or this old dead soul of, or this old identity of who you were. And there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of sorrow, there's a lot of feelings like, is that body gonna come back alive? So there's fears of like, you know, is it a zombie that's following you around, that's trying to eat you all the time? And that could be a little scary, you know? But there's nothing to truly be scared about with it. So you gotta remember, a new moon in Aries with Uranus involved is going to bring a really refreshing, positive vibe. With Venus in Aries as well, a lot of spark and exciting things that you're going to move forward into in relationships and creative aspects. But you got to remember that there's a huge ending coming right after this really weird moment. So people, I think, have to get their heads straight and realize it's about the long term here. The new part is born, but there is not a fully, I can't describe this any better, but the leash isn't off fully, and that's what Uranus wants, but Pluto is not letting it still fully happen. This technically is the last year of the Pluto-Uranus square. I mean, it really goes until 2019 if you really just kind of, if you want to give it the big orbs, and with Uranus coming into Taurus, that it'll be over. But that's what this has been for years. And it's coming to this point to where you can finally start to poke your head out. Because you got to remember last year when we were doing an Aries transit talk, the South Node was in Aries. So we didn't have the ability to really poke that head out. And we had to go through 18 months of that while Saturn was in Scorpio. This is the first time a new moon in Aries is coming without a South Node there, with the abilities of Mars and Saturn and fire entwined to this energy, really allowing this excitement and this adventure and this belief of this new self to be born. The only negative is there is dead weight, there is things to be cut out from the past couple years that we have to still go through and face. So realize as you're going through, there is a zombie that is still following us. If you're into zombies, or if you've watched The Walking Dead, it's almost like the Sag part is like, is it gonna wake up? And when Mars retrogrades in Scorpio, it wakes up and it freaks us out, and we have to, whether we kill that in the head or whether we then dump the body, I don't know, we'll see. That's gonna be the crazy part of what's coming up in the next couple, months. But enjoy this moment, because this is a party, exciting moment of the birth of this exciting new you. And you will always be you, but there's a new mask coming on, one that's not going to carry that old dead weight. But you got to realize, man, you just can't walk out of the room and leave the apartment or the house without doing cleanup. And we're about to come to the cleanup of that at the end of this month. So don't get too overly excited about this new venture, this new self. It's like getting a new car but needing to unload the old car. It's like getting a new house and needing to move from the old one. It's kind of the feeling that's kind of happening right now. And when you're in both and you have both, that's a lot of weight to carry. And sometimes it could be a little bit too much weight to carry sometimes. And I think that you need to realize that all of our souls are holding on to both sides coming up here now. Thank you so much. I know you're going to have a wonderful week. Enjoy the excitement. Enjoy the greatness. But is it worth it? Is what we are really going to be handling. Because with this new self comes, it's just like winning the lotto, comes, should I have bought 50 more scratchers? Should I have bought, you know, the 12 pack of ding dongs when I was only going to eat one? Mercury and Taurus is realizing with Venus and Aries. Venus and Aries is an egoic, I want this, I'm going to have this, I'm going to get this. It goes into the store and grabs everything it wants. But Mercury and Taurus is saying, is that worth it? So with this, with relationships and projects and things that you want, are you taking on too much when we're already got two souls we're taking on right now in ourself with already too much weight? This is a time to not overextend yourself. Trust me. Hope that helps. Sending you all my love and light. I truly love you. I appreciate all the support. Thank you for subscribing here on YouTube, and please subscribe to my app, theleokingapp.com, if you want to watch on computer, Android, or iPhone and get the daily horoscopes every day, your sun sign horoscopes every day with text and sun sign weekly videos and tarot videos and weekly intuitive videos. It's all there. Thank you so much for all the support. Last week of the 15-minute readings on my website, inclusiveastrology.com, and I will see you all on my next Uncut.